Microphone check and screen share check, please. Okie doke. I appreciate your patience. We ran a little late at the soccer field tonight. Had some new families show up that needed a little some hand holding and personal attention. Yeah, I think I may have mentioned it yesterday. The Angus Fletcher's artificial intelligence startup that I've been working with has been valued at 9 figures by an investment bank that's looking to take them into some private funding and then perhaps towards public funding or a buyout by one of the large social media entities. So I'll keep you posted on how that's going. Pretty interesting stuff. All very exciting. They're using his creativity model to develop an artificial intelligence advisor that would tune itself to what you say you want and then would find materials in the world that would gear towards your education, entertainment, or enlightenment preferences and would be a trusted advisor for helping shape your cognitive space, your exposure to media in an increasingly complex world. And it looks to be pretty interesting. And it's strongly connected to the creativity course that we've put together for traders. So they're very interested in our feedback and our results with the Creativity 202 course. So we're on to something pretty important right now. Could be life-changing. I hope they offer to buy me out. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, we're going to start with the market health check. 30-minute bars. So this is our 5-day check right here, and that would be the 10-day look back here. That's your. So in this case, the 10-day high and the 5-day high are the same, and the 5 and 10-day low are the same. So that's the size of the 5-day range. Today started near the top of that of yesterday's close. Made a slight upward move and then spent the rest of the day kind of declining about 1% to close at 373. So I see that as a rejection. That was a very tradable move in the S&P. I put the critical state for support right here at 372 because if that breaks, then this gap disappears, and that was the previous channel here. That was resistance, and then that gap broke up and has had 2 runs to make it higher, and it hasn't, and today sold off to the bottom of this new, think of that as a Darvas box, or that look back box where support and resistance is well defined. And then we would treat this as what would we call that? A violation of that price level to send it down. What would we call that? A collapsing dragon. So I'm now looking for, if that breaks, where does it go? I think this is a support level. That's a support level. This is certainly a support level. We might call that one a support level. So we got probably 1, 2, 3, 4 layers down until we get to a 10-day low. And if that breaks, you could just hear that like little tripwires are falling down the steps. And this is where we would absolutely have to be short. But to me, the first place to get short is here. Bearish normal. Closes that gap. That would be a fast move, and I'd look to be trying to put a second position on here. And in the move down here, I'd try to get my risk out. To the upside, if this holds, there's still every reason to like this to the upside. As long as this support level is holding, then price being located here, the last two times it was here, there was buying pressure and buying pressure. So we wouldn't be allowed to be surprised if there was buying pressure tomorrow on a Friday. Um, and then the test is 380. So it's all a tactical trade inside here, but if it gets above 380, then the move is all the way back to here, and our target would be about 386. So that would be another $6 move, which is about a 2% pop, and you could see that in one day. If this gapped up on the news that, oh, we're going to pardon millions of marijuana um, users that are in prison, we're going to see an interesting 10 sigma trade on that one. So that could be interesting. Um, I'm seeing this as a critical state ready to break in either direction. Strong moves are possible. Looking at the 30-day chart, now we're back to looking at daily bars. And then this would be our 10-day look, 20-day look, 30-day look. This is our 5-day box. That's our 10-day box. You can see again the 10-day low, 10-day high. Today's range was not all that exceptional, so it's at the top of the 10 days. So that means we could have a critical state in either direction, or it's a critical state, so it's a large move in either direction. And it's an inside day, by which I mean here's the high, and there's the low, and yesterday's high and low was here. So today was just marking time. We didn't break out any higher, but we also didn't break out any lower. So this is a moment of indecision, which makes it on tight range a critical state ready to break. Large move. So, and I would expect there to be a lot of action tomorrow on a Friday going into a long weekend. So I think we'll see some tactical moves early, and then I think people wanting to just not be wildly exposed over the weekend. I just don't see any reason to do that coming into a very contentious election. So I would expect fireworks early to see if they can spook the herd and get a 1-day pop, and then offload those positions and be ready for the weekend. Yeah, the PSAR flip is pretty amazing. So that's given us when the RL10 goes through the PSAR, then you get the PSAR flip. So now there is a potential for this to continue. I mean, we're not allowed to be surprised. And this was quite a long downward trend, and so a PSAR box flip right here could lead to some upward moves. That's what makes it a critical state, the start of potential new trends. Is it real? Is it fake? Who knows? All right, when we take a step further back, we see, just how strong that support was. We see this as a important resistance level in that 380 range. So it's really got to break through that. If it can, it gets to those two levels. Above 400 is obviously the crucial psychological state. So it's a tactical trade up into 400 with 1, 2, 3 legs up based on the size of that daily range, and then the breakdown to here is tactical, but if it breaks through the 10-day low, look out below. So perfect weather for tactical trading without a directional bias. We'll take a look at the performance of the indexes now and the tactical, our little tactical set. So all our indexes were below the zero line today. Here's the cutoff between winners and losers. That should be a plus sign, sorry. Have the S&P, our benchmark, at minus 1%. The diamonds were the weaker index at 1.18. Tech was at 0.8. Emerging markets minus 0.6. The Russell and Treasuries both off 0.56. Tesla, another bad day at Flat Rock, down 1.11. Let's take a look at the underperformers as sectors first. First, the sectors. S&P baseline. Materials 1%. Commercial real estate 1.14. Lumber 1.4. Finance and staples 1.4 to 1.46. The other lumber 1.66. Then Aussie Dollar clean energy at minus 1.7 and minus 2.7. U.S. residential real estate minus 2.8. Uranium 3%. Now individual companies, you got Cliff and U.S. Steel at minus 2.8, so that's two of our three metals. And then Alcoa in much better shape at 0.57. So the metals got smashed. Intel 1.6. There's Texas Instruments and NVIDIA. So our semiconductors, our little semiconductor group featuring, so NVIDIA still is the strongest of those. And I guess, where's my Alcoa? Yeah, and Alcoa. So NVIDIA and Alcoa had more of the relative strength out of those specialty groups. Let's look at the upside. S&P baseline here again at 1%. So we got tech 0.82. Consumer discretionary 0.71. We have Bitcoin and agriculture minus 0.4. The FANGs, Archenomics, and Biotech between 0 and minus 0.3. Then Brazil, lithium, ARC Innovation, blended commodities in the green, up to 0.6. Then Mexico, wheat and precious, Ethereum, up to 1%. Oil exploration, oil, energy, 1.4 and 1.78. It's individual companies, so we got PayPal 0.6, Coinbase, financial disruptor 1.29, Rivian 1.7 for the electric car company. The VIX showing a little concern about going into the long weekend. Devon Energy, big time gains compared to the, when energy is strong, Devon Energy it's not unusual to see it very, very strong. Robinhood 3.8. And now our good friend marijuana, MSOS, 34%. What Yeah, 34%. So that is a nice one to track because it's concentrated in the U.S. About 85% of the companies are in the U.S., 15% in Canada. Only 12 companies constitute most of the holdings, and most of those are even more constant. There's a couple bigger companies very strongly reflected in there. And the news in the last half hour or so of the day, that Biden's going to pardon all the marijuana convicts. Uh, it's about time. And that caused a 34% bump. So let's take a look at the sniper trade for the day. So here's what it was like to be cruising along with marijuana in a nice tight peak. There's the peak of the RL10. Comes down to here in the late afternoon at 3 o'clock. PSAR flip, so I get a TC2000 alert. Every time I get a PSAR flip in anything in my tactical set, I get an alert. When that then breaks above the RL10, I get an alert in TC2000. When it moves a MMRB off that, it gives me an alert. I look at it and said, holy smokes, news. I put the order in to buy right here. It gets filled here. I've got about a 20-cent wrist box. It starts taking off. I move in that same bar. I move my stop to no lose and say, now let me go read the news and say, oh, well, this is interesting. Marijuana becoming suddenly socially acceptable for real. And that now when we go to this scale, we see that what looks like this unusual sideways quiet channel, news, and an explosion. And so that bar closes here, and by this time, got my initial stop was here. By this time, I just lock that in and say, let's see. Now, Gary asks me, mechanical add every 2R? Absolutely not. In the last 30 minutes of the day, on a big spike like that, I'll put one in and then try to ride one bucking bronco. Cleared everything else. I'm trading one position because who knows what that could be. So, no, I'm not. I only put every 2R on absolute orderly, not unusual moves that are just kind of flowing right along. Um, every 2R would have been an amazing trade, but I'm not ready for that kind of stuff. That's what we get.
That would have been nuts.
On a single position in that last half hour. 1R, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It gets about that high, rolls over, so that's 10. Some shenanigans in the last few minutes, but I said, you know what? I'll just take that and be flat overnight. Don't care. I'll take a 10-hour gift. I need to take about a 10-minute break. I got to go take care of the dogs right now. They're barking and let me halt the let me halt this and take a 10-minute break. Be right back. Naturally, I didn't record that, so let me answer Gary's question quickly again. He asked if the second entry should be counted as a separate trade or just part of one large trade. My longer term answer was to treat it as a separate trade so that you can determine what the second, third, and fourth entries are doing for you overall, and you can score each one as a separate SQN. But you also want to take a look at the overall trade sequence or a series of, the initial one and then multiples as you go, so that you can get a sense what the streaks are and whether or not you want to approach that as a general strategy, as a series of trades intraday. And then at some point, once you get confident in the patterns, that you group all the trades of any type during the day as a single trading day and treat that as a daily R multiple, and then start looking at the string of R multiples over a long period of time. You'll see that in Griff Cooper's Kata 2 challenge, in which he was getting multiple trades intraday with the 3 different patterns, collapsing dragon, SSC, and Kata 2s. And once he kind of smoothed that out on a daily basis, he was actually able to see what his daily performances were, and it helped him handle, maybe the wins and loss streaks of the intraday trade, that on net, that the daily performance was so solid, and that led to very solid weekly performance, that it really raised his confidence level tremendously. So there's like 3 answers to that very good question. Okay. Yeah, we had some raccoons in the backyard. I had to go out with a garden hose and break that fight up. So the Huskies wanted to play the way the Huskies play, which is a, death rattle. Hey, I wanted to show just more of a normal standard sniper trade from today too, and that is in Devon Energy, one of our top 5 favorites. So this one, I wanted to just show you, featured a very large gap down right off the bat. Okay. And where's my pen? There it is. So this was yesterday's close, and then the big gap down to here, and that was the low of the day, and it essentially moved a standard risk box off the bottom, and there was still there was another full box to go just to get to the close, and the entire energy complex was excellent. So I just went ahead and entered with a standard risk box. That's like a frog entry, check or hold. And all that did was just go crazy as well. So the big gap down, minimum manageable risk box off the bottom, 1R back to the belly of the dragon. It blew right through that and the PSAR flip. So by this time, all I'm trying to do is get my risk out to here. And then as that starts marching up the stack to here, I'm just kind of tracking, and then it rolls over. So I take that, so we're in the first 15 or 20 minutes of the day. So there's the risk box. So that's about 2R. And now this whole complex is rolling over. So that's coming down, and I see the PSAR coming up. So this is going to be a meeting of the minds. Energy was so strong, I wasn't really interested in the short position on this one. So I noticed it, but my trading plan for the day was not to be short that. So it immediately sells off. The risk box on that, if I had been short, the standard would have put me, above the peak of the dragon and probably very close to the peak of the RL10. So that would have been a standard entry. And then if this falls through there, then by that time, I should be at no lose plus dinner for 2, or even considering a second position, with the idea that if it gets through here, maybe a third position. But I've opted not to trade that short, and then immediately experience the regret of not being short. which I then release to the universe. And then I take the standard, just take the standard PSAR flip with I'm going to treat that as a kata 2, because I'm going to, even though we don't have the RL10s or the dragons down in here, to me, that's a support level because it did this like a rocket ship or a trampoline. So I treat that as a support level. What would we call that trade? Kata 2. Unsurprisingly, in retrospect, it gets right to the peak of where it rolled over before. I waited for it to come all the way back to hit the PSAR. You could have legitimately taken this as a 1, 2, 3 exit, especially after an asymptotic move up and how quickly this sold off. There's a strong argument why that's a pretty good exit right there. It's better than the exit I got by half an hour. So, but you make your choices. The choices you make are the risks that you take. We coined that phrase in the classroom today. So I'm happy to take a third of an R on that one. I thought about going short there on the PSAR flip, but I've already decided not to go short on energy today. And of course, immediately regretting. But then I take the same trade that I took before. This standard entry here with the risk box here that went to here looks the same as this entry here that held support, the same place that held support. So standard entry on the PSAR flip. And I'm hoping to see it get through this. Check or hold. It does. I missed the second entry on this one. That's a reasonable second entry. Take the standard exit for 2R. One unit of risk, 2 units of reward. I take the kata 2. Fractional loss. I think about going short, but I'm already committed to not being short on this thing. Thought about the kata 2, but this happened right at the same time that the marijuana trade is happening. So I noticed it, but I'm busy. So that's more of a standard normal sniper day at the office right there. And to just address Gary's, I never try to leverage gifts. I accept the gift, get my risk out, and then just see what happens. Especially in the last half hour of the day, that'd be tough. All right, let's go to the daily report. Stand by. Okay, dashboard 1. Bearish normal. We're returning back to the normal grinding down. abnormal volatility, so this is still walking on eggshells. Energy is really strong right now. ExxonMobil, Chevron. Alcoa, the metal, has now become the best of the metals, which we saw before. Tesla still disappointing in its weakness. Coca-Cola and McDonald's, that's how painful that little recent sell-off has been. In the Dow Tactical, lots of dojis today, still a handful of auto framers. In the tactical summary for ETFs, a handful of dojis, a couple auto framers. Strength in on energy, oil exploration, energy, oil, plus Mexico's coming back a little bit. Much smaller auto framer group today. Tesla at the top of it. You got to pay attention to the most important stock in the world. To me, otherwise, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, very interesting. .3M continues to be a squeeze. Disney, Travelers, Gold, and Brazil, especially Brazil, interesting. Oops, just noticed Alcoa there too. Even more reason for me to pay attention to one of my top 5 favorites. And I like Microsoft in there too. And US Steel is getting close to a squeeze. I love the squeezes because the breakouts are always surprising to the people that were emotionally tied to it. In the sniper category, a ton of Godzillas in the S&P 500, none in the tactical symbol set, but I'm very interested in all of these that are double greens. There's Duke Power and Evergreen Energy. Colgate International Paper. Now we have, we'll take a look at the volatility players. The 1-day movers this is now sorted by the largest statistical 1-day move. So Conagra, Verizon. There's Duke Power again. The most quiets, this one will stand out because its 1-day move was abnormally large, while its 5-day move is very quiet. And on the most volatile report, I'm looking for these double greens and then a green red, because that tells me maybe the 5-day run is done and it collapsed into a doji. So those, I'm looking for the most volatile pairs, and then the ones where the volatility has changed the most. Okay. Standard auto framer from TC 2000 on our tactical symbol set. Then the sniper stats for the tactical symbol set as well. Still being dominated by the spring on both sides of the aisle here. In the Four Seasons of MACD. A tale of two cities here. I mean, we have some symbol sets that just got smashed, whereas others in the energy sector are really just thriving. ExxonMobil, Chevron, Devon Energy. So you're not surprised when you see that over here. I mean, this stuff just rhymes, right? I like Brazil here. That's evidence of strength. Latin America is not far behind. All right, let's take a look at the traders. Matt B had asked me about the brain mode power. So the guy, I still have about 30 open slots of that thing. I believe I'm going to shift to their new product. They have the same gang has come up with a new way of analyzing, sensory preferences and learning styles and things like that. It's in a beta test right now, and I'm if it looks promising, I may shift away from brain mode power to that. But if you're interested in brain mode power, you can see the write-up on tortoisecapital.net. It's a way to take a look at your sensory preferences for acquired information between visual, audio, and kinesthetic, and whether you're kind of a top-down, bottoms-up, or blended integrator of information. Pretty handy. That's what this, by the way, is what one of those reports looks like. Let you take a screenshot of that. All right, so let's see, Nolan. Let's see what we got here. This is the Aussie dollar on the threes. So there's a support level. That's a collapsing dragon. He gets paid. I like that. This now sets up the next CD. That's good. And then it rolls over. Oh no, I'm sorry. He exits, but then it collapses again, so he gets short. Doesn't get that move. He gets chased out of it quickly. Couple scratches, then this one pays off nicely for 1.3. Plays the K2 to get paid. CD with the second position. I wouldn't be messing with second positions until you get locked in, because this one, remember, you had just about 2R in hand. Then you put this on, you let it come all the way back. Now you're losing on two positions, whereas the buffer that you had in there was only from one position. So you're losing twice as fast as you were gaining. That's why I don't like the second position until you got about 1,000 trades in hand. This SSC, okay, here's your collapsing dragon. There's a second collapsing dragon. So good practice. I'd be cautious on that second. I think it's premature to be doing that. The Qs on the 3 minutes. This feels a lot more orderly. Just practicing the kata 2. Here's a collapsing dragon that pays off. Not sure why we got out of that, since it runs all the way down to here. I could see this one as a 1, 2, 3 exit. That's where the trade should be. You've got the dragon as a guide all the way to there, so that's about where you should be getting out. Yeah. All right, that's reasonable. Kata 2. Now this one, if you take that as the kata 2, I like to see the 1, 2, 3 exit right about here at the edge of the dragon. I like to sell on the far side of the hill. That would be another kata 2, probably scratches. Here's a CD. Or no, I'm sorry, that's a PSAR collapse. Kata 2. So starting to get some stick time in there. Agnieszka, I'm thinking your stops are too tight on this one, because we should somehow be able to crush a move of that magnitude without 8 or 9 trades, but we're positive for the day, so I'm okay with that. These all look to be I like that one. Stop and reverse should be here, not there. That would pay you. This looks late to me. I think we should be in here on a kata 2 short. We should be right about there. She's on the 5 minutes. And this is Arch on the Euros, on the Euro US on the 3s. I like the PSAR flip. I like the re-entry. Love the CD. That's pretty good right there. I'd like to see you get a 1, 2, 3 entry here at the edge of the dragon, because this is rolling over and you already have a high and a low and a lower high, because you want to be short here for that. So get paid better on this one. And that one should be short there. And maybe that would then be the second position, and then you should be scratching that. And I love this one. So 1.6 for the day, pretty good shooting. All right, that's everything we got for today. We'll get this published and posted. Now I got to go out and bury a raccoon. My little murdering assassins, the baby-faced assassins, the 2 huskies. All right, take good care, guys, and we shall see you tomorrow.